And without further ado, we will bring Bria in. So you're going to be on video in just a second. Just letting you know. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. And let's not make you small. How you
Hi,
doing, my friend?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I am doing awesome. I'm really glad to see you again. So guys, this all happened because I have no problem saying this. I don't think anyone would take offense that hasn't been told this. Bria is one of, I'm going to hype you up immediately. Bria is one of like 3 or 4 people ever in 460 something episodes of our podcast that I was like, okay, are you doing speaking stuff yet? And she's like, oh, yeah, like I'd like to do that. Not really. I'm like, no, 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 you need to go do this. And so she is a phenomenal presenter, great energy, very similar to our friend, in my opinion, Sarah Ball yesterday, just in terms of the passion that they bring to the camera and their stuff. So you guys are going to love her here. And then I hadn't talked to her in a while, just because you know how it is, Bria. We have a huge
Yeah.
community. It's not like we all get to chat all the time. And then you were asking for the affiliate swipe copy, and I'm like, oh, Eureka. I'm like, do you want to speak? Because you're great. So she was very nice to do this relatively last second for us, or close to last second. The case studies are one of the bigger asks of people when they're speaking here. You got to put all that together. We
Mhm.
can give you the slides, but we can't give you the case and the thought process for it. So I am just so glad that you were here with us, and thank you for being willing to do it with us.
Thanks, Evan. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm a huge lover of FDN. It just fundamentally changed how I help people, how I help myself. It changed my business, so how I make money. And I'm really happy to talk about it to anyone. And I'm very excited to share a case study today.
Cool. And they're used to my ad lib for several minutes. So I just want to give us like 1 or 2 more minutes before we start
Sure.
so that everyone gets in for the beginning of it. So, can I just ask really quick for those that don't know you, what's your brand? I've said your brand a million times. It's
Yeah.
not that I think your brand is funny, it's that as a 30-year-old male, I'm immature and I can't say it out loud without kind of blushing. So, I will let you share that. And then, what were you doing before FDN and all this health stuff? I'd love to know that too.
Yeah. So I am known as the period whisperer. And I run a podcast that is called The Period Whisperer. And that is really, I kind of think of it as a Trojan horse. Like people come to me in perimenopause because their periods are wonky or they don't feel the best. And really, what we dig into is all this metabolic chaos, this deeper work that kind of happens. So, but the goal of it and the brand is really to help women listen to the messages of their body. And our periods are one of those ways we can do that. So, before this, I have been a holistic health coach, an integrative nutritionist, and a personal trainer for years and years. So for years, I really focused on, helping women with nutrition and fitness. And so it was really, ironically, it's been 2 years since this Black Friday 2 years ago when I joined FDN, and I was like, oh, it's just changed the game for me. I had no idea we would.
It's only been 2 years.
I know.
Wow. Okay.
And everything's just exploded for me. It's been amazing. It's been so amazing to work with women on this level
Mhm.
and see the results we get for them. It's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you still know me well enough from before that like I'm just being funny. But so my dad, he is traditional dad. Not He's not unemotional. He's gotten better as he's older, but like kind of just you shut up, you go to work. I watched the dude work 7 days a week from the time I was born, landscaping, cigarettes, just like tough guy. I mean,
Yeah.
calluses everywhere. And I think he's been amazed to watch because that's hard. Yeah, that's about as tough as you can get. That's like construction. You're just beating your body up for decades.
Yeah.
And then he watches me, his son, who I'm sure he had aspirations for to work outside or do something like that. And I'm on this damn computer upstairs in his house, not now anymore, but at the time,
Yeah.
like making good money, figuring things out. And he's just
Yeah.
like, what does this kid do? And I can only imagine him finally tuning into one of these things and turning it on. And I'm like, all right, guys, we're going to interview the period whisperer next. Something like that. He's just like smoking his cigarette, like, what the hell, Ev?
What is
Um,
going on?
no, so I'm just being funny. And all
Love that.
jokes aside, I poke at my dad just because it's funny and he's a fun character in all of this. The reality is, he's like the most supportive person for my mom and I. He will
Mm.
sit there, cook the gluten free, make sure no pans have gluten so that my mom is healthy, good to go. I think I'm going to have an awkward Thanksgiving when I go home because we have an avocado mattress down here we just got. And now, listen, we got the king size one without the topper. I'm not saying it was cheap, but
Yeah.
it's a mattress you're going to have for the rest of your life. Fine. Now, the problem is every time my mom visits us, there's a joke that there's another $1,000 purchase. So she calls me up, Ev, we got the avocado coming in. I got the topper. I'm like, oh, how much was that? She's,
A lot.
let's say above three, less than 4 grand. And this man, he is still so open to all of these things is my point. Like, I feel like, again, we can't hang out without spending a grand on something natural. So he will go cooker gluten free, set up the avocado mattress with a smile on his face, and then head to the porch to smoke his cigarette. So I can't ask for better than that. That's about as that's fair, man.
Bless his soul, we say.
All right. So super glad to have you guys here. I have realized, based on when you guys said hello, so as we stream longer, the delay gets worse. I don't want to put that on you, Bria. I don't know if you're a presenter that tells people to answer things in the chat. If you were to, just understand,
Okay.
and I'm sorry about this, we are probably operating with about a full 2 minute delay.
Okay.
So that's what would be happening there. Now, what we'll need to do next. Oh, and sorry, want to say hello. Nitty is in the chat. She's not going to be on video with us up front, but if you guys have any questions as we go along, Nitty will be in the chat. And if you are tuning in for the first time, you're in the end of week 2 of 3 weeks for our Discovery Series here at FDN. That's so you joined, you said, during Black Friday 2 years ago?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Well, then you're going to be kind of jealous. So we actually have the biggest Black Friday sale happening right now. It's $2,000 off the FDN course. It's probably $1,000 2 years ago. And technically, if you pay in full, it can be up to $3,500 off. So we are doing this Discovery Series just to show you guys FDN. And I'm sorry for those that have been on every session. You already know my spiel with this, but we believe that what we have is something that people are looking for. I mean, Bria even just said this.
Yeah.
You know, you were doing this health thing. You had a career in this, and then you came on, and the results that you're able to get are better.
Yeah.
So our marketing strategy is this: let's just show people what we do for free. It's kind of
Yeah.
a nice way to do it. And if you decide that you want to join this and be a part of us, awesome. And if not, then great. You didn't have to pay for anything, and you could make an informed decision without having to invest in another course. Because what we don't want here is for people to be adding FDN as their 5th, 6th, 7th certification. And it's another one that they do that they're like, oh my gosh, like this didn't work for me either. So there's no reason it shouldn't work. You already know what you're getting into. $2,000 off until the end of the day on December 1st. It's already active. We're doing what every other company does nowadays, which is apparently start Black Friday at the end of October. It's kind of crazy. Like, remember when we were kids, Bria, and it was a day? And
Yeah.
now it is something that lasts for an entire month. Kind of cool, but little crazy
I
too. I
know.
get like 10 emails every 30 minutes.
I know.
So,
Starting
yes,
November.
we're going to move into the presentation here, but just wanted to let you guys know that you already know the sale. So, if you'd like to talk to anyone on our course enrollment team, we'll drop a link below for you in the chat. There's no gimmicks there. They're all very consultative people. And again, you already know the sale. There's nothing else that they can tell you. So, if you're not sure if this is a good fit for you still, hit us up there. We have a pack next week for you. Even on Thanksgiving, we'll actually have some of our Canadian workers still doing sessions for you. So God bless them, because I will not be on that day. And then December 1st, save the date, Monday, December 1st, 1 o'clock Eastern. Monday, December 1st, 1 o'clock Eastern. We have our closing keynote with Leah Brueggemann, and that is going to be lots of fun. So we'll see you guys then. All right, Bria. Now we will have to do the screen share thing on Restream here. So when you share, it'll come up on the back screen first, and then I will be able to bring it in. So if you want to share your slides, we'll get this going here.
Allow Canva. Oh, I got a lot. Is it search Canva? No, hang on. My presentation.
No worries.
Oh, found it.
Awesome. Okay, I will tell you when I see it. Perfect. Just came in for me, and I will share this now. All right, so we are still, let's go to full screen, make sure that works.
Yeah. Present full screen. How's that?
Perfect, Bria. What I do when someone's presenting is, remember, I'm just in the back room. I'm here with you 100% of the time. I remove myself to not be distracting, and so I can secretly eat and just take a break for a second. So you do your thing, and then the floor is yours. And guys, we will have time for Q&A after she is done. So good luck.
Awesome. And I'll probably just work that way, since we know we have the delay. We'll just keep it so that there's questions at the end, but ask your questions as we go for sure. And I will say, Evan, here's why I'm not jealous about the Black Friday sale, because FDN was the best decision I ever made for my business. So it was worth every penny I paid for and more. I will just put that shameless plug out for everyone, because it was a game changer. I'm just so grateful for it.
All right, I'll have Reed send you the check. I'm out of here.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, everyone. Well, I'm just beyond excited to be here with you guys today. I'm obsessed with what I get to do, and I'm so grateful that you're here, whether you're here just because you want to heal yourself, heal your family better, or whether you are interested in running this type of business or already running a similar business. I think that deeply understanding how to do these things, what we actually get to uncover and how we get to support people is really so such a beautiful way to live your life, I think, if you, this kind of thing brings you purpose. So today we're going to talk about going from exhausted to and cystic acne to clear and energized. This is one of my 46-year-old mom of 4 clients, how she got her spark back. We talked a little bit about me already, but real quick, just so you know who I am, I was telling Evan earlier, I've been an FDN for, well, I guess not certified for 2 years, but for a year and a half. Before that, I was a certified holistic health coach, which I still have, and a personal trainer. My podcast, The Period Whisperer, is the top 1% wellness podcast in the world. I'm very, very proud of it. It's an amazing way that I've been able to reach a lot of women. Thanks to Evan, I'm now a speaker and a hormone expert for a top fitness company called V-Shred. So learning what I've learned through FDN has been a massive game changer for me just in general, how I can impact people, how I can share the knowledge that I have. I'm a mom of 2 teens, a Canadian that lives in America, and a proud member of the LGBTQ community. But enough about me. So let's get into my client. I would say this is somewhat of a classic case for the women that I work with. I primarily work with women over 35, probably 35 to 60, that are kind of in this hormonally shifting time of perimenopause, which I think just unearths all the challenges. So this is my client, Sarah. She is 46 years old, mom of 4 boys, and they are close in age, like 10, 12, 13, 14. 4 boys all together. You can imagine the demands. If you even, I have 2 children and they're 3 years apart. So imagining 4 this tight in age is just kind of mind boggling. She is on it. She's like type A personality, like has everything very solid because she has to. But she came to me with a lot of fatigue, cystic acne that was really hormone, like every month. Here it would come and then it would finally just go away and here it would come again. Hair loss, breakage, and mood swings. These were kind of her key main complaints that she's like, Bria, I don't know what else to do here. I've been to the doctor. They say I'm fine. I'm losing it. She had to set 7 alarms in the morning to get out of bed. That's how exhausted she was. She was struggling with very heavy periods, with constipation and bloating, with increasing food sensitivities. Sometimes she just wouldn't eat because of her food sensitivities. Things like trouble concentrating. And then she was, I would say, I do work with a lot of women who want to lose weight. Sarah didn't necessarily need to lose weight, but she wasn't getting results from her workouts anymore. She was quite fit. And that's where I think when everything started to tumble out of control, she found anytime she worked out, trying to feel better about herself, she was just exhausted and irritable. Her key goals were to just feel like herself again, right? Have energy, be kind and present with her family again, and keep up with the demands of her life and really be able to get back to feeling good in those workouts. She said to me, I thought this was so sweet. She's like, Bria, my husband even very gently sat me down and said, I've noticed on this day and this day of your cycle, every single month, you seem really unhappy. So we knew there was something bigger going on, and she just didn't want to be that person. And I absolutely get that. Like suffering, trying to handle things at 46 when you have such a big schedule. I knew she could feel so much better, and so did she. A couple things I think is important to understand about her, and we'll dig a bit more deeply into this. She exercised daily, weight training and yoga. Like she, walked every day with her dogs. She was very, again, I'd say organized with her life and her health. She was primarily vegetarian and already gluten-free since one of her sons was celiac. So that's what you need to know about Sarah. After hearing these things and spending time with her, I kind of had some suspicions. I'm thinking, knowing that she's having food sensitivity issues and that she's pretty hyper focused on her health already, I was curious about how her fuel mixture and her caloric needs were working for her. So I'm thinking, okay, we need to look into that nutrition, which we always have to in this case. With hearing that she was having digestive issues, constipation and bloating, and that cystic acne, I immediately thought, oof, what's going on with detoxification, right? What's not getting out of her body when we already know if we're not having a daily bowel movement, that's a pretty key indicator. So how is the liver and the gut looking is what I'm thinking. And that fatigue, right? That overall fatigue and exhaustion that we get, that for me in my client base can be pretty indicative of adrenal health and needs. And just overall mineral deficiencies for people in midlife who've been very busy and overproductive for a long time. These are really common things that pop up. But based on what she was saying to me and what I learned from her metabolic scorecard, like her intake forms, I really thought, something's going on in one of these areas. That's what was kind of popping up to me first. But of course, I really love the part of FDN I love the most is really learning how to connect the dots with the labs. So for me, I would say these four labs are, or these four tests are really the foundational tests I run on all of my clients since I have a pretty niche market. And then sometimes we do more advanced things based on it. But one of the biggest things I fell in love with going through the FDN course was metabolic typing. It's a way that we can understand nutrition for the individual needs of people. For me, metabolic typing explained why I would have some clients who could eat a ketogenic diet, like really high protein and high fat, and just thrive and crush it, while others, like myself, if I try to eat ketogenic, I feel pretty nauseous. Or why some people are plant based and look glowy and wonderful, and while others look sick. I'm sure you know people like this, or maybe you've been one of these people on these extremes. So metabolic typing is something I always do for my clients to understand which way do they lean. What is the rate that their genes, their cells genetically turn food into fuel? Is it slow? Is it fast? Is it somewhere in the middle? And that's one of my favorite things that we learn here at FDN. I also wanted to run a GI map so we could really understand what's going on in that gut. I thought, and like had that suspicion basically for already knowing the cystic acne, knowing the constipation, the bloating. Okay, right away, we know there's some detoxification issues. So I want to know what's going on in that gut. I classically run a Dutch panel for my clients, which helps us deeply look at sex hormones, but adrenal hormones and their metabolization. How are they clearing and moving and getting out of the body? So again, with the cystic acne, with knowing her age, with the heavy periods, I wanted to get a good look at that Dutch. And finally, for my US clients, I typically run blood chemistry for my Canadian clients because I am Canadian, or my clients around the world, which is one thing I will say I love about FDN is our opportunity to work with people anywhere. I've had clients in Norway, in Switzerland, in the UK. I've had clients in Australia, New Zealand, and then plenty in Canada and the US. So it's such a powerful thing. But for my clients outside of the US, I'll run an HTMA, which is a hair tissue mineral analysis. But on the blood chemistry for me, when I'm thinking about detoxification, when I'm thinking about how much this woman has been through having 4 children, being 46, going through perimenopause, I like to use blood chemistry to kind of look more deeply at liver enzymes, look at methylation a little bit in the gut, and really look at the full thyroid picture, which again can be a really common thing for women to have some thyroid conversion issues when we're wondering about how liver congestion is going. And then, of course, minerals. So that's what I was looking for. And I thought, this is what we're going to run. Now, the first test, she came back. I didn't have the actual, we don't have the questions for the metabolic typing, but the metabolic typing test is an amazing questionnaire that my clients will take. And it helps us understand, are we a slow oxidizer, or are we a fast oxidizer, or are we somewhere in between? When you go through FDN, you're going to, really get a great grasp of what this means. But essentially, a slow oxidizer, which is where she came up, means that her cells genetically turn food into fuel at a slower rate, which means we probably want to feed it faster burning fuel. And faster burning fuel is typically, a lower fat, higher carbohydrate diet, which is really more plant-based. And although she was eating a lot of plant-based, you can kind of see I've listed out here for you the approximate kind of ratios we look for in terms of our plate, what's on our plate in a slow oxidizer. We want to make sure we're getting that 25% protein, which again, for most people, I think is still 80 to 100 grams of protein a day, 15% fat, and 60% carbohydrates. But my client, Sarah, who, was gluten-free and primarily vegetarian, when we dug into her nutrition, was really eating a lot of cheese as her protein and drinking a lot of protein drinks, like protein waters. I hadn't even heard of protein waters until I met her. And so when we looked at her breakdown of her nutrition based on her needs and her metabolic type, she was actually eating a much higher fat, higher protein, lower carbohydrate, and lower fiber diet. And that wasn't working for her. So right away off the hop with her nutrition, when we did her metabolic typing, we knew that she needed to increase her fiber, decrease that dairy, especially when we're talking digestion, and the caffeine, which was a big one that came up for her as well, and just changing her fuel mixture in general to increase more fiber and complex carbohydrates automatically made a difference in her energy and her digestion right away. So that was a really nice win off the hop, we'll call it for us. Then we actually started to get into her labs as her labs came back. We got her GI map back. So what I love about the GI map, and maybe you've heard this in the other case studies already, is that yes, we get to look for like parasites and pathogens, but I think so valuably, we get a really good look at the good and the bad bacteria. What is the overarching view of what's happening in your gut? And even more so, what's going on with just the overall inflammation and immune markers happening. So Sarah's results came back, and when we looked at the commensal bacteria, these good bacteria, right away, kind of taking a step back, you can see we've got a few okay in the middle, several trending low. We got one really, really high here, the Enterococcus, and then one of the keystone like phyla bacteria. So I like to say to my clients, these top 9, these ones make up about 10% of our gut, of the good bugs in our gut microbiome, or should. And then these two down here together make up about 90%. So if we can see one is low, I'm seeing some serious depletion, but we have some inflammation. So some definite dysbiosis right away, which means we're going to have issues breaking down and absorbing nutrients, especially when we see one of the keystone family or phyla bacteria really low. When we come down into the opportunistic or not as ideal bacteria, we can see, she's got one that's quite elevated, her Pseudomonas. So we know there's kind of some extra toxins happening. We know digestion is compromised already. And this starts to correlate to some of her symptoms. Well, she isn't breaking things down properly. So she's obviously not absorbing them. That's where some of this digestion is going to come from. That's where fatigue can really come from. And certainly, where constipation can start to come from. Now, with Sarah specifically, we uncovered a parasite. So we had the Dientamoeba fragilis come up, and that was unexpected, but there it was. And it allowed us to really make sure, okay, we can consider this in our plan to get it out. And then in the inflammatory markers, or in the kind of intestinal health markers, we saw, okay, she is breaking down her fats. Okay, that's what we see with the steatocrit. Her elastase, I would say this is a measurement of how our pancreas is doing with, creating the enzymes and stomach acid to break down our food further. And I would say it might be starting to look a little tired. We can kind of see it creep down here a little. So potentially it's some more digestive compromise or some spillover from the body not digesting on its own. But here was a big one that was really noticeable for me. Her beta glucuronidase, which is a really key measurement, I think, for liver congestion. It's elevated when we've got a lot of dysbiosis. And when it elevates, it's going to undo the work of the liver's detoxification of our hormones. So when I see this one up and elevated, I don't like to see that above 1800. I know that estrogen especially is recirculating in her body. And there we go. I'm thinking, oh, there's some of that cystic acne again coming right off the hop. We see the liver is likely looking a bit congested. We'll get a look at the other labs to kind of confirm, but we know we have an opportunity right here to support her liver, to support her gut. Huge opportunities. And then, of course, as you go down, we can see her SIG-A. This is her, I always think of SIG-A as the bouncer to the club of our immune system. And we can see that it's looking very, very low. I always want to see this up around 1500. So for me, when I step back and think about our immune system, if your SIG-A is low, that means the body, it's almost like having too many tabs open on your computer or your phone all the time. It's like just grinding away because things are getting in to the bloodstream that shouldn't be, because that bouncer is tired. And all of a sudden we're just draining and draining and draining in the background. And what was one of her biggest complaints? Fatigue. So fatigue, exhaustion, digestive issues, constipation, cyclical acne or cystic acne cyclically, and heavy periods. I mean, we can start to tie clues to each of her main complaints right here in that GI map, which was really helpful. Moving on to her Dutch. What I love about the Dutch is, as I said, we're getting a nice good look. We can actually see her key sex hormones were quite balanced, which is so interesting. But we already know, even though her sex hormones are balanced, that beta glucuronidase is up. We know the gut is recirculating those hormones back up to the liver. So I right away can start to isolate, there's some challenges in that liver, just as I'd suspected. We can see even further on here that her cortisol clearance is not working. So her free cortisol, the available cortisol for her kind of daily needs, was there and looking pretty good. But you can see on this little bar, it's really, really low. The metabolized cortisol, which is typically a conversion issue, pointing to sluggish thyroid, pointing to some liver support needed. So there we have already got kind of two things pointing at the liver, plus she's got a parasite and some dysbiosis. So her poor liver is doing double duty here. And we know, right, there's that detoxification. We could see her methylation was good. So the hormones that made it down into her gut, if they weren't undone, they were getting out okay. So methylation was looking all right. And the pathway that her liver was metabolizing the estrogen was a safe pathway. So we can kind of see that over here. So we knew, okay, we definitely need some liver support. She doesn't need hormones. Her sex hormones are looking quite good. Even though her testosterone is a little off here, we can see the other markers are on, and I can confirm it in her blood chemistry. So I think this was just a wonky result on her test there. But we knew, and even I'd say her DHEA was starting to look a little low. So we knew that kind of this impact of what had been going on in her gut and liver has now been starting to trickle down and impact her adrenal hormones. We weren't clearing it properly. So we're starting to see this story take shape with Sarah where, okay, we knew we weren't eating enough. We were certainly not getting the nutrients enough out of her food. We weren't eating right for her type. And then we weren't even getting the nutrients out of her food with her gut. We have all these stressors in there that are taxing her liver. And now that's trickling down into the other parts of her body. I actually get really excited about labs. Now, I won't go through her entire blood chemistry. I just wanted to highlight, I think, the things that really popped up that for me really confirmed and helped me understand, kind of the depth of what we were struggling with. So I looked at her liver enzymes after knowing we had some key markers for liver congestion, and they were off a little bit. The alkaline phosphatase was off, the AST is borderline low, and the ALT was quite low. So I knew, again, there's that confirmation that we really need that liver support. In the thyroid, we could see that her T4, her T3, and her free T4, these were all a little low. And again, when we think about thyroid conversion, we learn that a lot of that conversion happens in the liver, and we need the right minerals to support that thyroid. So this is where we really learn in FDN how everything is really connected together and why things start to kind of slowly tick off like a bad domino direction, right? I can see their free T3 is quite low. Her reverse T3 is starting to creep up, which is a common pattern when we're either under eating or undernourished. I think she was a little bit of both, but we were able to start to improve that. And the final marker I think really drove this home on the blood chemistry was her vitamin D being quite low at 48.9. I'd want to see that above 60. So we can start to see the story, vitamin minerals, we're not getting the minerals because our absorption is off. Now that's really impacting the thyroid. Our conversion is off because the liver is congested and the thyroid is off, and it's impacting our adrenals. And now it's showing up in the message of, in a way, these heavy periods. This is what she had started to notice, not getting results, because now we have a body that's in what I like to call, metabolic chaos is what we're trained in with FDN, and I love, but I also like to think of it like health debt. Suddenly, the energy supply to her body was not meeting the energy demands. And she's a mom of 4 at 46. She's got big demands. So how did we start to unwind these things? And again, really key areas. I think ultimately my suspicions kind of, oh, my little picture didn't show up. It's too bad. I think it was a big check mark. My suspicions really turned out fairly accurate. And I think that's one of the beautiful things we learn at FDN, right? We learn that really the labs are so important to help cover healing opportunities, but it's so important to be able to connect them and correlate them to what our client is going through so that they make sense to us and so that they matter to them. So we knew that her fuel mixture was off and her caloric needs weren't on. We definitely got confirmation through the labs that there were detoxification issues, and I'd say even more so the liver than the gut, and that her adrenal health was not working. So we saw that metabolized and free cortisol looking in the opposite directions. They weren't clearing. And then we saw some mineral deficiencies with her vitamin D being low. So, what was our plan? How did we come back from all of this? I already talked a little bit about her nutrition, but at FDN, one of my favorite acronyms that they use is DRESS: diet, rest, exercise, stress management, and supplements. And I'd already, in my life before I got into FDN, I already primarily used diet, rest, exercise, stress management. Those were kind of the 4 pillars of health. And then the final S, supplementation, that can help us come back when we see these labs, was the S that I really learned here as well. But the biggest movements we started to make in her nutrition, like I said, we wanted to remove those inflammatory foods. She was already gluten-free. She rarely drank alcohol or ate sugar because she was quite nutrition and health minded, but she didn't realize how much that dairy was causing inflammation in her already dysbiotic gut. So being able to see that on there, I think, was really helpful. And then she really cut back on that caffeine. And because we were able to get her eating more and feeling more sound, she had more energy throughout the day, which was awesome. And then we really prioritized fiber from complex carbohydrates and whole foods. So moving away from the protein waters and into the real protein. But especially for her, we talked a lot about these cruciferous vegetables: broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. Those types of vegetables are so helpful when it comes to helping the liver detox our hormones. And that's what we saw was happening for her. And of course, with my clients, because I work with a lot of people in fitness as well, when I see that the adrenals are wonky, I'm really find it important that we pull back from heavy fitness just temporarily for 30 to 60 days while we do some healing, but we're not cutting out movement. So we really prioritized hitting those 10,000 steps each day, yoga or hot yoga for some good detoxification, like getting that sweat on, but without pushing the body too hard. That was kind of like our diet, and I'd say rest, exercise, and stress management were really tied up in there. She's really busy, so we had to find ways to figure out what mattered most, which I really felt like was that nutrition. So the extra time she had was spent on nutrition, and then she used the walking and the yoga as kind of her rest, as her exercise, and as her stress management. We got a nice combo there. When we headed into kind of how do we correct this supplementation, I really like to do a phase-based protocol. So when I looked at everything she was going through, we knew there was detox, we knew we had this parasite, we knew the adrenals were up. We needed her to have more energy to also handle the removal of a parasite. So in phase 1, which was really 4 to 12 weeks, we really prioritized supporting the liver. I wanted a little bit of time to support the liver, support the thyroid, support the adrenals, and her minerals, just to try to give her a little bit more energy to kind of handle phase 2. So we looked at supplements like liver nutrients, which is really good overall liver support, milk thistle. We looked at TUDCA, which is awesome for kind of bile flow and stomach acid that we knew she was missing from her GI map. We looked at some adaptogens with some stress nutrients, and then definitely some calcium deglucarate to really help with that beta glucuronidase that was elevating, really supporting that liver, and then some good liquid D3K2 to replace the low minerals. And after a few weeks, she already was noticing a little bit of difference. And then we were able to shift into phase 2, which was when we really prioritized the parasite elimination and healing and sealing the gut and just supporting her immune system. So some of the supplements I focused on in there with her is that we used Biocidin Remove to help kind of break that biofilm barrier and really bring in those awesome antimicrobials. We use Para-X by Biomatrix to get the parasite out of there. And then we use the binder GI detox. And then we use some enzymes, some megaspore, some mega IgG to really just support the gut with what it had been missing, bring that dysbiosis back into balance, and then really support that immune system. So after our time together, really, and I work with my clients for 6 months minimum, but we were, at this point, we were probably, pushing our 6 months, 5 months in, close to 6 months. What were her results? She reached out and she said, "Oh, sorry, my spelling error there. I can't thank you enough. I seriously tell all of my friends that you brought me back to life." Like those were her words. And I mean, she did the work, right? Like they do the work. They're the ones that have to do it. But I was just so grateful to be a part of that, to hear someone say that to me, that I feel like I feel like me again. And it was one of the best parts, I think, of doing the work that we do. But ultimately, when we went through kind of her symptoms, her symptom check on her metabolic scorecard, which is a great tool we learn in FDN, we saw that her digestion had completely regulated. Like she was finally pooping every day for the first time in years, which I think is huge. Her energy improved. She sent me pictures of how for the first time, and she couldn't remember, she had an entire cycle without any acne. This is always this painful acne that was coming up around here. She had much lighter regulated periods, no PMS. So now I think her husband was much happier without a grumpy wife every month. Her hair started to grow and be strong again. Her mood really stabilized. And ultimately, she got her spark back. And just hearing her, as I said, hearing her say those things like that she felt that brought back to life, knowing she has 4 children. I mean, what an impact, right? What an impact for her to feel like her and be able to be present, be excited, be there, all through just deeper looking. And I'll tell you, one of the things I have noticed as an FDN who can look into this lab work now, I find they make people more compliant, because when you see on paper where things are at, that is in your body, it is pretty hard to lie to yourself anymore, right? It's pretty hard to say, "Oh, it's not a big deal if I do this." Well, yeah, it is a big deal if you do that. We can see it right here, black and white on paper. And I think for my clients, I really see it click for them a lot more when they do this kind of deep work. So thank you so much. I think I hit my 40-minute limit here, and I'm really excited to answer some questions for you. But I have just really enjoyed working with the clients that I've worked with. And this is one of many that I've been blessed to work with. And it was so exciting to see her results happen so smoothly.
Oh, you are way too good with the time. Thank you so much, Bria. So that leads for a good amount of Q&A. Guys, one, I hate the delay. This sucks. If we could get a thank you for Bria, that'd be great. But then 2, let's get the questions rolling here. I'll actually probably throw you some stuff because, again, it's going to take almost 2 minutes for them to actually hear
Yeah,
that.
let's do it.
Bria, you have no idea. You literally could not have had a better case study. I was kind of joking with them saying, I don't think we could have scripted this better. We were just sitting here before watching a session called Supplement Squad from the trainee side of things, right? So we're watching that on recording so that the people that are looking into the FDN course this month can figure out what do we offer, what do we not offer.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with immunoglobulins and low SIG-A came up. We were talking about acne, all these things. And it's not like that was the entire case study, but just to see that live afterwards, guys, that was not planned. That's just called lucky in the world of FDN. So glad we got to do that.
Glad. I'm so glad.
All right, let's get some questions for Bria going. Oh, good. Looks like delay is at least a little bit better now. This is just a beautiful comment. Well, that's mine. That's not the one I'm talking about. All right, Bria, I'm so excited to hear from you. I subscribe to your podcast. I've gone through my own healing journey of cystic acne and still finding ways to support my cycle. Looking forward to learning. So it's just very nice from the beginning. I thought that's cool.
Thank you.
Yes.
Exciting.
All right. And then this was kind of the same thing in the beginning while we wait. Super excited to hear from you. Literally have so many prospective clients dealing with hormonal imbalance symptoms and so many reaching out today. So ironic. Excited to finish FDN to help people. So Alexis, if I'm not mistaken, told us yesterday towards the end of her practical. So just about to finally get out there. And yet, listen, guys, I'm personally a big believer. You kind of follow. You don't have to do this. You can do whatever you want. But following a niche that you resonate with personally is smart, or maybe you have a story around whatever. But My gosh, man, it is so sad how, in a sense, there's really no shortage, or there's no, uh, what am I trying to say here? There's no shortage of people, women in particular, who need support with this stuff. We have been poisoning ourselves from day one, at least in America and in many other westernized countries throughout the last 10, 20, 30 years. It has been science experiment time.
Yeah.
Like my generation, right, when I was in the 1990s, it's like, oh yeah, here's some GMOs. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
hope for the best, or let's start spraying glyphosate on everything. Hopefully
Yeah.
that's okay. I still believe this, Bria. This is my opinion. So I grew up, now I know better. I grew up around a farm. So my parents, and of course, why would they know any better? They're thinking, jackpot. They got 3.5 acres,
Yeah.
landscaper and waitress working their butts off. They buy this plot of land, build the house, and 3.5 acres is already very nice, especially for our folks that are more international, especially like the Europeans that I talk to. They're kind of amazed sometimes by how much land
Yeah.
Americans have sometimes. I'm like, yeah, dude, I can go down the road in Austin, 10 minutes, not even, and people have 100-acre farms. It's nuts.
Yeah.
So it's a very nice privilege, very cool. But the reason that they bought the property is because it's 3.5 acres surrounded completely by farms. So it gives you that illusion that we're here forever. Um, and the only problem is it was corn. And so you and I both know that ain't organic corn back there. It's one of the most genetically modified crops in the entire United States of America. I think it's over 88% of corn is GMO. And
Yeah.
guys, the reason that they do that is often so that they can spray more
Yeah.
stuff on it. They can make these crops immune. Oh, okay. I thought I disappeared.
I was gonna
They, there you're
go
good. That's funny.
ahead.
They
That's
can
I
make
shocking. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, they can make these crops immune to certain things, and so they continue to spray more and more. And all of this to say, could be a weird genetic thing, but I have my theory about it, Bria. When my mom and myself got our MRT for the first time, we did this at least 6 months apart. Both of us, the highest thing that we had through the roof was corn. Now you say, well, Ev, why would that have to do with anything in the farm if they're spraying chemicals? So again, this is where I get theoretical, and I'm killing some time as we get questions going in. I and this is not anti anything. I'm just stating things that are true. We do know that certain people can develop egg sensitivities or allergies, for example, because egg proteins are used in certain vaccinations. That is not for or against. I didn't say that. I'm just telling you something that is real. So it
Yeah.
is my belief that when certain food proteins are commonly associated with certain pesticides or whatever, I think that's when our body gets screwed up. So there is no genetically modified wheat in America, common to or contrary to common belief, but we do douse it in glyphosate. And it
Yeah.
kind of helps, from my understanding, some of the process with harvesting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So my question then is, right, like if we have gluten all the time that's getting sprayed with all this stuff, I do believe we have gluten sensitivities. I think that's real. But I'm wondering, is it because the body so commonly associates, hey, I get this one of the worst pesticides ever known to man in my body at the same time this happens, and I kind of wonder if the same thing happens with corn. So this is my caffeinated crazy conspiracy theories. What do you got for me?
Oh, I'm 100% with you on that. I
Okay,
am
good.
amazed to see, um, I have many clients, like most of my clients predominantly are in Canada and the US. And one of the things I do immediately pull, like in our healing journey, is going to be gluten, just because I know it's adding a load to the body. But what I have found, I've had several clients actually go over to Europe, and even some live in Europe for like 6 weeks at a time and have zero issue with gluten when they're over there, but come back here and like the smallest amount just turns things over. So I think it's quite valid what you're saying.
Yeah,
I think the other thing that is so has been for anyone working with women in this age box, what has been so shocking and amazing for me to see is, and even with Sarah, this example, she is thinking, I'm in perimenopause, my hormones are off. That's what she's thinking when she's having, can't sleep and low energy and, periods getting kind of wonky. But as you can see in that Dutch, like she had like textbook amazing estradiol and progesterone. It had nothing to do with that. And so I think the work we do as FDNs is so important because we're looking below the hood. If she had just at 46 gone to her practitioner and said, something's off, and they just are going to start giving her maybe some progesterone for that or whatever, I mean, that could have caused more issues for her. The fact
yes,
that she has no issues with her hormones. It is her detoxification. So hormone production, vine detox. And because of things like glyphosate and this stuff, as you're saying on the corn, that's where we're seeing these loads on the liver, on everything really pick up.
Yeah. We will. Oh, thank you guys. You are great. You have no idea how much of a rush this is as a host. This sounds like a stupid rush, but of course you want questions for your guest, and you guys every time they come through, but you never know until you ask, right? And I'm like, please do it, and then you guys complain. So this is great. But another interesting anecdote there. My mom started doing FDN stuff at the same exact time. They still live in that area, so
Yeah.
it's hard for me to say, and I don't want to. Correlation is not causation. Classic, science statement, right? But the farmer retired. And so he stopped using that whole thing. And like that doesn't get grown into corn anymore each year. He doesn't do anything with it at all. And her allergies got like instantly better and all these things. And I can't help but wonder, I'm like, is it because she's not getting hit with pollen from something that she's highly sensitive to? Because that's another, we didn't even
Mm,
get into that. If you're sensitive to the corn and you're living right behind a cornfield, if
yeah.
you can inhale those proteins, I'm not trying to create paranoia in people. I'm
Yeah.
just saying like that is a real thing that can happen. So
Yeah.
live in a bubble, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. This is
Move
Dina.
to Costa Rica, live off the grid.
Yes, this is Dina. I'm a trainee. Love the program. Hello again, Dina. Do you also use the MRT? And Bria, I don't. I know that you're very polite. So anything that you do or don't use, you can always be honest. I have no idea what you use. Do you currently do the MRT?
Yeah. Hi, Dina. I'm so glad you're a trainee. I sometimes use the MRT because I have a very niche client, and in the beginning, when I first started, I was really stuck to the 5 labs that we're trained on until I had some more advanced training into the other areas. Now I will typically run an MRT only if needed. Like if we aren't getting there on our own with nutrition, or if there is like a massively compromised mucosal barrier in the gut, then I might choose to add it on or talk to the client about it. Or if we're just having troubles with food sensitivities, most of my clients, that doesn't seem to be a key area of opportunity for us. So I don't use it as frequently as I did in the beginning.
What a perfect hand. I keep trying to teach him that though. Like, and Dina, I'm not talking to you. I know that you already know this stuff, but in general, it's like, when you graduate and you paid for a program, cool, do it that way. And then
Yeah.
once you have some more experience with this stuff, which you already had some beforehand too,
Yeah.
mind you,
Yeah.
oh, now I can kind of bend around and play with this. That's why we give you guys access to all the labs. We know that
Yeah.
you're going to do that, but you got to get your own clinical experience first before we
Yeah.
can reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, for sure. My first 10 clients were by the book.
Yeah, there you go. And you're like, okay, like maybe I can do this. That's fine. What do you feel about bioidentical HRT? Of course, it's not medical advice, but just what are your opinions on it?
I mean, I feel like it can be a very amazing thing for most people. I think where I always land on this, I feel very strongly that everyone should be doing a Dutch to better understand their hormone clearance and detoxification before they go on HRT. And that we want to optimize the underlying issues. We want to optimize the hormonal pathways, and then it could be a really beneficial thing for you as long as we see that it's safe. So I'm a lover of it when it's the right person and we can see that it's the right thing.
It's such a tough one as this conversation keeps happening more and more because I'm like, well, even the healthiest person, the hormones are going to come down. And, it's easy for me to say at 30 and you're young, like, okay, like, hey, maybe not right now, but when I'm 60, if my testosterone goes down, I'll be straight up with you guys. There's no part of me that says I'm not going to raise that again.
So
Like, I
yeah,
will
I
inject
would,
whatever I have to
I would
inject
find a way.
to get it
Yeah,
going.
I'm
Um,
with you.
yes.
These are great questions.
Do you get clients who have similar symptoms but are also on hormonal IUDs? How much does a hormonal IUD, like Marina,
Mhm.
have or affect testing in the labs? Is that a factor? Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I absolutely get clients on hormonal IUDs. In fact, I get clients on hormonal IUDs taking bioidentical hormones, which is just a whole other, can of worms that I won't dive into and share my opinion on. But um, I absolutely, for me, I mean, there's many, many layers to how hormonal birth control in general, of course, impacts our body and our hormonal health. But in terms of testing, the Mirena is ideally going to make it difficult for us to recognize the true levels of our sex hormones. Plus, hormonal birth control typically drives up sex hormone binding globulin, which often is going to bind up our testosterone, even if testosterone looks okay on the lab. So I'd say it plays a big role in seeing the production of our sex hormones, but I think the production of our sex hormones on a Dutch is a tiny little bit of the value that that lab provides. We're still going to get to see the detoxification pathways. We're still going to get to see methylation on that and how that's working. So whether they're going to stay on it or not, or get off of it, we can at least deal with the underlying issue if the fact that they're on the Mirena is not because of controlling birth. So yeah, yes, I absolutely get clients who have detox issues, who have estrogen recirculation issues on an IUD. And I still think it's absolutely worth running all the labs even if they don't want to come off the IUD.
It'll never numb, especially as a guy. It'll never. I'm not saying that someone shouldn't do that. It's not what I'm saying. But it is, the longer I'm in this space, it is kind of insane to me that we have just normalized. Oh yeah, 14-year-old girl, here's a pill that just completely affects one of the most natural things in your body.
Yeah.
And we'll do that for 15, 20 years and hope for the best. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, what could go wrong?
Yeah.
So
And most of us were
I
on it, hitting
fully
midlife.
respect anyone's
Yeah.
decision, but wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get myself in
Let's
trouble.
see. For clients with low sex hormones, what recommendations have made the biggest shifts from your perspective? That's great. Great question, Haley. I think I always say to my clients, my job is to work with you to try to answer the question why. So first we want to know, why do we have low sex hormones, right? Is the reason our sex hormones are low only because we're pretty much perimenopausal and menopausal? I need to see that for sure. Like, is the gut detoxing? Is the liver detoxing? Is the thyroid good? Is that, or the adrenals? If everything is pretty tickety boo, but the sex hormones are just low, then always we want to start with nutrition. Always we want to work on building lean muscle, because that's going to really support those. But that's where bioidentical hormone replacement, or even starting with just some herbs, can be really supportive. That is rarely the case for my clients. Usually there is much bigger issues to why the sex hormones are low. The adrenals are off, the thyroid's off, the liver's off. So that's where I think this lab work can be so supportive. But yes, if all things are healthy and functioning well in the body, we're not dealing with metabolic chaos, then the most effective thing I have found is putting on lean muscle, continuing to support the adrenals, because that's where our sex hormone production comes from, and supporting with some bioidenticals.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was either squinting or nerdy glasses. So you guys got nerdy glasses now. Good question here. What's the most challenging thing you faced when you first practiced FDN protocols?
I think lab ordering, just figuring out how to order, like just understanding the processes of how to do things. But I don't think that's what they're asking. Um, I think just your own confidence and self-doubt, honestly. Like, I think all of us, when you go through, like, FDN's amazing, but it is robust, right? Like, so when you graduate, you have the knowledge. So I really think the greatest thing I struggled with, or most people struggle with, is just, yeah, confidence in yourself, and just kind of stepping back and listening in a way to what your gut says and what the bigger picture is, and not just focusing in on like one lab marker or something. When you trust your gut, I think it gets a lot easier, and you're going to get better. The more you do it, the better it gets, because you get more experience. So, and I think just being humble about that can be helpful.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think it's also different too and scary because we're trying to teach people how to think,
Yeah.
not necessarily what to think, right? So people
Yes.
want a protocol for this, perfect shape one for that, but it's like, well, no, we're ideally training Bria or Evan
Yeah.
to form their own ones, and I totally can see where that imposter syndrome or confidence might lack. But to your point, guys, we wouldn't graduate you if you weren't ready. That's a
Yeah.
fact. We would not graduate someone that's not ready,
Yeah.
because it's not. That affects the client safety, it affects your confidence, and it affects us potentially,
Yeah.
selfishly.
Right.
So
Mhm.
if you're graduated, you're ready to go. Good question.
Yeah. It's a great question.
Great results. Do you offer group training, or are all of your clients one on one?
Yeah, I do both. Yes, I do both. So I love the one-on-one, but as we know, we're a bit capped. So a couple of times a year, I do offer a group coaching program. Yeah, that kind of takes what I do. For me, in that, I center it around one lab, because I feel very strongly in my practice that I like that touch and feel with a client. I need to be able to sit down and do a really good results and recovery. I need to make sure they understand their lab, because I have a lot of clients that come to me who've actually had labs run and they have no idea. about, like, nobody even went over with them, and I think that's so important. So I do offer both. It's just a little different.
Awesome. Okay, next one. Oh no, I'm sorry. I will get that one back. I just unstarred one, Nitty. So I'll go back to that. How did you get your first? Perfect. This is a loaded one. Usually, how did you get your first clients?
Yeah. Um, so I'd say my biggest driver of leads is my podcast. And I'll throw in some of the best business tip I ever got is, I use social media as well. So I do talk about things, and I had been in business before, working in health. So I was able to use an email list to start, sharing what I was learning. Um, but one of the biggest business tips I ever learned is to have one piece of long form content consistently going out every single week. And for me, that's my podcast. For someone else, that might be a blog, maybe it's a YouTube video, but a place where you can grow that know, like, and trust. So my priority in my marketing is every week. I've had the podcast now for 3 years. So at that time, when I graduated, I had the podcast going for a year. And that was when I really just started talking about this testing, about lab work, about what I was learning. And then I was able to use social media to kind of pull posts from that. And ultimately, that's where my clients came from. So my kind of call to action was book a call if you want to learn more. And we, did discovery calls. So my
Did you did you realize you were good at speaking when you started the podcast? I know you're humble. This is a moment that you could say it. But did you already understand that you were good at that?
No,
Okay.
but I think at that point I knew I'd gotten a lot better than I used to be, and I guess I was brave enough to just do it.
I
So
got you.
yeah,
Well, I always bring up this quote on these things when we're talking about the business side: fortune favors the bold, right? So just guys, you already beat half the people. Not that it's supposed to be a competition, but I am saying that business has that nature to it. So you beat half the people at least just by showing up. Most people don't want to do that. I only ask because I think you are a classic example of capitalizing on strengths. There's a reason that I do the podcast here and do
yeah,
that. That's just what works for me. That's my zone of genius.
yeah.
Then you get people like Lucy, our executive director of our graduate group. She built up like a 40,000 person following on Instagram.
Yeah.
She would not, I mean, she's a fine speaker, but it's not like she would say that she's some crazy speaker, but she just, for whatever reason, understands. It's like those reels that I watch that I'm like, I don't know why this is doing so well, but it keeps doing well. And like, it's a format, right? It's like the B roll of like them doing
Yes.
something in their life with the perfect music and the perfect captions.
Yeah.
So you capitalize on those strengths, and that's probably going to be one of the best ways to get the initial client. So I just thought that was cool.
It's a really good point. And so I think for anyone, thinking about getting the first clients is, yeah, find what you like enough, because you're going to get better at the thing you like. So I
Mhm.
think when I go back to my first episode compared to, I think I'm at 360 episodes now.
Yes.
I mean, I sound way better now than I did then. So find what you like, do the thing consistently. You're going to get better at it. I promise.
Awesome advice. All right, I found the question I accidentally skipped before, so thank you, friend. Do you notice a lot of women going through perimenopause are slow oxidizers, or is it still case by case mostly?
Yeah. So I just want to clarify here, because there's two different ways we look at like oxidizers. If you're running an HTMA, for example, a hair tissue mineral analysis, they often will give you, a slower fast oxidizer, and it's a different way of testing than metabolic typing. It's telling you an entirely different thing. Most people in midlife, most adults midlife and beyond on an HTMA are going to be a slow oxidizer. In metabolic typing, which is what I talked about in the case study, no, I see quite a mix of slow and fast oxidizers and a mixed in the middle. So it's pretty, yeah, it runs the gamut in that sense, Bethany. I hope that helps explain that.
May I ask you a follow up for this question?
Yeah.
So, what I want to know is it's always cool to see someone that's still utilizing metabolic
Yeah.
typing. I don't know why. I think people end up, uh, getting confused or not doing it consistently. My wife and I still use it. We think it
Yeah.
works great. So I don't know, but I was wondering because metabolic typing, the diet does give supplement recommendations. I'm
Mm.
not saying that those are good or bad. I have no idea. I've never actually even tried the full thing, but I eat or tell a client to eat based on the metabolic typing diet, but I supplement like the metabolic type on the HTMA. Do you resonate with that or do you do something different?
No, I resonate with that, with what you do. So I don't supplement based on the metabolic typing diet. I
Yeah.
supplement based on, yeah, what the needs are of that come up in the labs.
Okay. All right. You're the second person I've asked that to. One of them was our COO and she agrees. So it's like, it's kind of cool because those types might, again, look different, like Bria said, but I really think supplementing with the HTMA stuff is probably smart. That makes sense. But then eating with the other thing, like I'm a mixed oxidizer on the metabolic typing diet. That does very well for me, especially
Yeah.
depending on the day. You kind of learn how to feel it out and when things are going to be best for you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, right now I am in that slow oxidizer thing on HTMA still. I just reran one recently,
Mhm.
but I can't deny that it's accurate because when I supplement for it, it's like within days I
Mhm.
notice, wow, I'm. It's not like you're flying, but like on energy, but you have more or whatever. And then Maddie just ran one for the first time, fast oxidizer formula. And you know how they titrate you very slowly.
Yeah.
She moved up a little bit too fast because we thought she was fine. She's like, I literally had to slow it down because I had too much energy. I'm like, well, that's probably a good problem to have as we get a little bit older here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh, it's very cool. All right, we did that one. OB said, thanks for the presentation. How have you modified the metabolic typing questionnaire to decrease the intake process overwhelm for your clients? I guess this is assuming that you have.
Yeah, I have not. I will say I have not. I usually just I send the test. After doing quite a lot of them, I have found that, when I'm trying to save money for my clients, I have been, not using the diet check record sheets.
Hmm.
I think ultimately I like to use metabolic typing in my practice as like a foundational piece to start with, but I'm always listening to the person's body and teaching them to listen to their own body, especially in women because we cycle, right? So some part of the month we're going to be hungrier or have different needs macro wise than others. So I will find just even having them kind of track their food on a diet check record sheet, me seeing it, noticing those patterns, bringing those patterns to them and having them pay attention to their own body can, if we need to avoid too many questions, that can be helpful, but I don't modify it. I buy the test and send it to them.
Do you ever, not that we should be guessing this, but I'm just saying from someone like you who does have a lot of clinical experience now, do you ever find that you can kind of
Yeah.
tell what the person's going to be beforehand based on their own preferences?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And how they're feeling.
Yes. So yeah, my wife got fast oxidizer on both the metabolic typing diet and HTMA by coincidence. And
Wow.
I could have told you that from day one. So this is funny. We're sitting at dinner with her parents for the first time. Her dad, Desert Storm veteran, 6'3", probably 260 pounds. And like, I don't mean like fully jacked, but like farm size. Like he works
Yeah.
on a farm, so it's just big guy. And thank God, I was polite enough to be like, "Oh yeah, Maddie, of course, order first." Because she's like, "Can I get a steak rare?" Now I only get a medium rare, and so of course, when the waiter goes to me next, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll take a steak rare as well." I can't let her dad see me get a steak not as rare as her in front of him. So, but when when
Oh,
your at the time 26-year-old girlfriend is like, "Yeah, I'll take a steak rare," 99% chance you might have a fast oxidizer girlfriend.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. For
all right,
sure.
it's awesome. Let's go to the next one here. Oh, cool. How did you increase your following on social when building your business?
Yeah. Social media is a fickle and finicky lady, I find. Because they're ever changing the algorithm. Here's what I have found to be, the most effective way to grow my social media. But like from your long form content that you do, we want to first be consistently posting, right? So we do want consistency in the cadence of when we show up. But what I find is through my long form, I use that long form to connect and kind of cross share with other people, and that grows my social media. So in podcasting world, that looks like I will interview other people who have a podcast on or other experts, and then I tag them on social, and then that will grow me some followers typically, and bring more people into my world. And then in turn, I will work to be interviewed on other people's podcasts, which has probably grown my business the fastest. So
Awesome.
that drives that. Yeah.
Very good tip.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll move forward from that one. If someone was on BC, birth control, can there be lingering, maybe even years of problems after stopping it? Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges, well, there's lots of challenges, of course, but I'd already talked about it. So testosterone, but sex binding globulin can be raised and then not go anywhere. The progestin in birth control binds more strongly to the progesterone receptors. And so it can kind of fatigue them out where we can't even get the benefits of progesterone as well after it. Like you might not get the benefits. So there is a slew of issues, yeah, that can linger long term if we don't support that.
I only want what you genuinely believe here. So let's say, hey, I am in a situation, well, not me personally, but someone's in a situation where they're dealing with years of lingering effects from birth control. Do you believe that they can mostly get back to a good place? Is there always going to be some long term detriment? What have you seen in your clinical experience?
No, I believe most everything. I believe most things are figure outable for sure.
Cool.
I think so.
Awesome. That's encouraging. And I believe you.
Yeah.
I've seen miracles with this stuff, guys. There was I won't mention her name, obviously. There's a young woman I worked with. Well, I guess I was the same age at the time, 25, 26. And she was off birth control for a year. And again, she's a client. So she did tell me, she's like, I haven't had a period for a year, by the way. I thought I didn't have one because of the birth control. And then I got off for a year and I
Mhm.
haven't had one the entire time. Now, what's so nuts is, are you big on like the circadian biology side of things, sunrise and through
Yeah.
the blue light glass? Okay. So you could say it's fake. I don't know. Seems real to me. So one of the first things I had her do, because remember, this is a hormone issue in a sense. It's not just that, but that's one of the things. So we had her start going out and catching sunrise every day because her routine before was wake up at 5:30 in the morning in the Northeast, so very dark unless it's
Yeah.
summer. Go to the gym right away, artificial light, bam, shower, bam, government job, inside all day. So, I mean, literally many days, especially in winter and fall, no sunlight at all, except the drive from one place to the other. And of course, that doesn't count in the same way if you have your windows closed, which typically you do if it's 15 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And so she did this sunrise thing for literally a week. And I mean, I'm not saying it was perfect from the way that she described. It's so funny because they'll still use a barrier with how they explain it to me because I'm a male, right? So she said it was not what she'd expect, but her period started to come back within a week of doing that, even though she had not had one for a year. We
Yeah.
hadn't changed anything else yet. I hadn't even got the test results back. I was just giving her lifestyle stuff. So my point is, no matter how serious this stuff can be, and yes, it could be a year, it could be multiple years, if you have them do the basics, this
Yeah.
body is designed to heal. We were talking about that earlier, guys, right? A broken bone does not need a cast. A cast just helps it heal in the right direction. It's the
Yeah.
body that heals the bone. Paper cut, same thing. It wants to be healthy, wants your hormones to be good, but we got to give it the right stuff. And
Yeah.
if we're stressed to the max on pills, on medications, which we might need to be on at the time, that's fine. And then no sunlight. I mean, you're like a plant, dude. You got to get sunlight. You can't just be indoors all day, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
there is hope.
I like to think of my clients like, again, like we're just working on a puzzle and we're working on it together. So it can be a really collaborative effort with your clients. And sometimes there's a few missing pieces and it just takes us a little while to put that puzzle together. But then you have these moments like with your client there where you're like, oh my gosh, this just worked. And it's
Yes.
kind of opposite of what she was doing, which is why it probably worked, you know? So
It's cool when it can be that simple too.
it is.
This is what is MRT again? No worries, Holly's looking into the FDN course right now. Mediator release test. It's the food sensitivity test we teach as standard for American based
Mhm.
FDNs, but actually almost every country has a different food sensitivity test that we do use. So just something to keep in mind if you go through the course. Here you go, another one for you. Thoughts on a diet high in saturated fat to supply the cholesterol needed to make sex steroid hormones? Could this have issues depending on the metabolic type?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, Mediterranean diet, obviously, but like I am primarily plant-based, just purely
Hmm.
because, yeah, because of animal rights reasons. But I do eat eggs, I do eat butter, avocado, olive oil. Like, I don't think it's as hard to get fat in as people, good healthy fats as people need. So, of course, we know if you are a fast oxidizer, when we're thinking about metabolic type, you might actually get more, you'd eat maybe the same kind of fats and same amount of fats, like in your nuts and your seeds and your avocado oil and your olive oil, but you might eat a higher purine meat, which is going to be a fattier meat. And that's going to take you to that next level, I think, in terms of your metabolic type. But I think as long as the fats that you're eating are healthy fats, again, nuts, nut butters, seeds, the avocado, the coconut oil, things like that, real butter, real fat dairy, that kind of thing. I think that's going to give you exactly what you need for your sex hormones. And if you're optimizing the rest of your body and avoiding inflammatory foods, I don't think you're going to have any problem with your cholesterol or feeling well.
Cool, very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, and then let me double check, but I think this is the final one we have for right now. So, guys, please, if you have any last second ones, we actually still have some time.
Okay.
So please feel free to throw them in. Otherwise, I'm not going to hold someone all day. How useful is it to read The Metabolic Typing Diet by William Wolcott? So the gentleman, obviously, that came up with the metabolic typing to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I bought it after I learned this in course. I bought it and read it after. It was just fascinating. I think just I found for me, again, like I think I said this already, this was this way of understanding nutrition. It was like made so much sense. Like it literally explained nutrition to me and why people are so different about nutrition in just one theory in a way. So I think it's a really useful read, especially if you find nutrition challenging or you work really with people in nutrition, because I found it to make so much sense of in such an area that's so confusing for people, and it just fundamentally addresses how bio individual we are, and there's no one size fits all approach to nutrition. And I am surprised it is not way more well known, and I think it's just because it's not sexy.
I could not agree. It's too technical, right?
Yeah.
Vegan, paleo, okay, this is what you do, this is what you exclude. I can teach it to you in 2 seconds. I really can't teach the metabolic typing diet to you in 2 seconds.
No,
And I totally agree with you that that's one of the reasons that,
not
even though
sexy.
it works so darn well, and
It's so easy at the same
it's one of
time.
the only ones I know that's not cookie cutter.
Yeah,
Right? Everything, even paleo. Like, I'm more paleo based. It's still
yeah.
cookie cutter. It says do this stuff and that's it only. Metabolic typing accounts for those other things, but again, that doesn't sell as well.
It requires you to pay attention to your body. They give you a great here, start here. This is a fuel mixture for you to start with, but then listen. Listen to what your body says because you're going to still need to adjust these things because you're no diet can account for how busy you are in your life, for how much muscle you have, for your basal metabolic rate. Like no diet can account for those things. So you have to pay attention. And that's the one piece that I think a lot of people don't want to do.
Absolutely. Oh, cool. Another question came in. And Megan, I know that you are on enough times. I got to reword this. It's just this seriously matters. We cannot answer these questions directly. So, how about I'm going to flip this to you, Bria, if you would be so kind. Bria, let's say you were in this situation and we're transitioning off hormonal birth control and you've been on it for 20 plus years. Um, okay, and you were this is actually now I really have to reverse this. So, would you personally take a high quality multi, magnesium glycinate, omega-3 probiotics, and B vitamin complex just for this? I'm curious what you would do if this was your situation.
Yeah. Um, I think those are all really great nutrients that I see women typically be deficient in. So these would be ones I would absolutely consider. I would, of course, test and not guess. That would be really important to me because that's what I've trained to, and I really see the value in it. So I'd almost probably want to see and if you're in the US, my blood work is what I'd want to see probably on where things are at. And then I actually am a big fan of getting like full spectrum trace minerals or humic and fulvic minerals to make sure that that baseline is there for my body. So, I mean, that's just kind of off the cuff is where I would start is I'd probably be doing full spectrum humic and fulvic trace minerals, and then I would test to see what I really needed. But if I couldn't test, I think that is a nice mix to start with
Yes.
for myself.
And then also, I would assume this is what Megan was getting at to some degree. So, I would have to assume you would not necessarily think it's suffice to just do that to completely try to get back to normal after 20 plus years of that stuff. We're definitely going to have to test and look into some other things, I'd assume, right? Again, not saying that can't help, but I don't know if that alone is going to be the thing that gets you to where you want to go.
I mean, probably in a perfect world, two to 3 months after I got off birth control, I would do the labs. I would do a Dutch for sure, a GI map, and then I would check minerals. That's what I
Yep.
would want to do for myself.
All right. Oh, you guys are smart. You keep sneaking them in. Apologies if you've already covered this. Have you had clients with PMDD? If so, have you observed any commonalities between cases, deficiencies, and such? What about this?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I wouldn't say I've had many, but because I am typically dealing with women later in midlife, so I think they've addressed some of this for themselves. But I do have several that struggle. Um, I think that we see progesterone dropping, actually, all hormones dropping way too quickly during like post ovulation. So that's sort of a key area. And then again, the question is kind of why. What I have found So obviously we have all our lab work that can be really helpful to understand, like, oh, do we not have the ingredients? Do we not have the nutrients and minerals? If the detoxification is fine and we're having this fast drop off, what I have seen is yeah, we're just not getting the nutrients and the absorption of the nutrients that we need. And that's where I think, again, mineral support can be really helpful, really looking at nutrition and lifestyle and stress. But yeah, doing like a much deeper, like methylate and methylation, I would say that's another big piece of the puzzle that I see in PMDD is people with different genetic methylation mutations or comp SNPs, things like that, that can kind of play a role into that. So I know that gets a bit wordy there, but yeah, or in different terms if we haven't learned these things. But I think ultimately what I see is either blood sugar dysregulation, mineral deficiencies, or hormones dropping too quickly. That's the commonalities I've seen.
Sorry, I normally try to translate when I know something. I actually forget. What is PMDD?
Oh, postmenopausal or premenopausal dysphoric disorder.
Okay, thank
So
you
it's
very
like
much.
very severe PMS. Like we can get really, really emotionally off.
Got it. Okay. Well, you guys are getting the time's worth. There you go. We got 13 minutes technically,
Oh,
if you don't
wonderful.
mind. Is there any limitation you faced with regard to lab results and recommendations for your international clients compared to the US and Canadian clients?
Uh, Not really. I mean, again, blood chemistry is one thing I can only run in the United States. But aside from that, I mean, I can get a lot of what I need on an HTMA anyway. So I'll just run that outside. And then there's certainly some states in the US that we can't run blood chemistry in. So that's what I'll do. No, I really haven't found many limitations. Sometimes labs take a bit longer to get back, I find, in other countries than here, where it can be pretty quick in Canada and the US. But commercial lab results, no. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I've gotten better at the recommendations. So lab results, no, I don't find any challenges there, with the exception of can't run blood chemistry. No big deal. There's other things we can run. And often I will give the blood markers to my clients and say, ask your doctors to run this for you. And then we overlook that piece, which is great. But recommendations, yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit of getting to know different supplements and where we can get the supplements in different countries. But I think one of the things I have just been so appreciative as an FDN are the client advisor sessions. So when you graduate, you can actually pay for, or if you're ordering through the AFDNP, you get a client advisor session. So you get a 30-minute session with a mentor who's been doing this longer and helps you look at the case or the lab. And it has been one of the fastest ways I've grown, I think, is doing as many of these as I can as well. And I can't thank the client advisors enough. They're incredible. But we have client advisors all over as well. And so I have found that a really helpful place to, if I have clients in Australia, then we have a client advisor who's in Australia. And so I book it with her. And then
Mhm.
she helps me understand what the options are. And then I learn, and I don't need to do that again. So that's where I think the challenges can come, but there's absolutely ways to learn around that.
Guys, I swear to God, we don't pay these people. They really do just like FTM
Yeah.
this much. I mean,
I'm
some of you that come on, like, it's like, all right, I could not have written this out any better. So thank you.
yeah.
Um, all right, here we go. Oh, I always mess this one up. Have you used Shilajit for humic and fulvic minerals, or do you prefer a different source?
I have used some Shilajit. I do affiliate a bit for Organifi, who makes Shilajit, and I do like their stuff. But I have fallen in love, and I do not affiliate for them, but I have just fallen in love with these humic and fulvic minerals called Beam minerals, BEAM minerals. I just find them amazing. They're, so really easy to take, really easy to get, decent cost wise. You can get them actually all over the world, from different distributors. And I interviewed the owner and creator on my podcast, and that was what I was like, I want to try these. So I did, and they
Mhm.
were amazing. So, but Shilajit can be good. It's just a different source of them.
All right, I officially love this audience because the way I look at this stuff is I'm like, if I am lucky enough to have someone that is doing what I want to do and they're answering questions for me for free, I would ask as many as possible. So you guys are great. Sorry, we're going to keep you to the half hour mark, Bria.
I'll take it.
Um, have you used AHCC or other mushroom functional food supplements?
I'm not sure what AHCC stands for. Can we
I'll try to
add
figure that out while you do this.
mushroom function? I do understand mushroom functional supplements, yeah, like adaptogens like reishi and lion's mane. And I mean, we're not talking psilocybin, I assume here. We're talking about, or
It's
is,
Just so active hex. I had not heard of this either. Active hexose correlated compound is a dietary supplement derived from the mycelia of various mushrooms,
Oh,
specifically within the. Not even going to try that word. Something
mm,
family. So there you go.
yeah. So I haven't used AHCC clearly. Now I'm interested in it and I'm probably going to research it. So thank you for that. But yeah, I definitely have used mushrooms in my practice and in myself for sure. I think I'm a big fan of like mushroom coffee because I do like coffee, but I'm trying to find ways to nourish those adrenals at all times. And we see a lot of mushrooms. I have adaptogenic mushrooms in my like daily protein shake for sure that I take. So I'm a big fan of mushrooms. I think they can be really supportive, all of
Okay.
them.
All right. What are your thoughts on cycle syncing?
Hmm. I like cycle syncing. I think it's a fascinating understanding of the female body. I do think at the end of the day, the best part about it is that it teaches us to listen to our own body. And that's ultimately what my goal and kind of brand mission is: listen to the messages from your body. As women transition into perimenopause, our cycles aren't as regular. And even though we can use the moon in cycle syncing, I think fundamentally the best thing we learn from cycle syncing is, yeah, to pay attention. What is my body saying? And have some compassion for the season that you're in. So I think if it works for you and you want to be rigid with it, I think it's amazing. I think seed cycling is amazing for all women, which is sort of a part of that cycle syncing. But I pretty much follow cycle syncing for my fitness, I will say.
Okay. All right. OB again. Since there are only fast, mixed, and slow oxidizers, have you found situations without testing where you ascribe someone mixed just to err on the side of what will make sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think without testing, I might start with a mixed kind of ratio, but then just within that first week, I'm looking at those diet check record sheets and I'm looking at what they're eating and how they're feeling compared to what they're eating. And you can pretty quickly, adjust their fuel mixture based on that. I think you need a bit more carbohydrates, or I think we need a bit more fats and proteins. So I think that's fair. Yeah, that makes sense.
If a client of yours is having hormonal issues and symptoms of perimenopause and also has been exposed to consistent mold in their house, would you address the mold toxicity first prior to addressing the hormones?
Yes. I mean, I may have more questions in order to answer that, but the
I
answer.
could totally read you as an FDN practitioner. You're like,
Yeah.
well,
Like, I
if
probably
this
have
is my only option,
yeah,
sure. Yeah, we'll get you
yeah,
out of the mold.
yeah. Like, I'd probably, first, yeah, get out of the mold and yeah, and then how's the detox? Because again, it's hard to most people's perimenopause symptoms are not because of their sex hormone production. It's because of the other things impacting the sex hormones. So yes, if that, which I believe is true, then we would definitely address the mold toxicity first.
I will handle this one just to make it easy. If does the Australian clinical advisor cover Asia as well? So yes, the Uh, where the advisors are at is a good question. Is less about actually the labs that are available there. It's
Mhm.
more that it's the time zone.
Yeah.
So that's more to help you out with the time zone things that you can get someone that's not at 3 in the morning for you, because that's not fair. If we're going to sign someone up in Asia or in Australia, we can't be having you meet at 3 a.m. for one of our clinical advisors. So it's not that. I am sure our clinical advisors in Australia are more well versed in Australian labs. That's fine. But it is actually primarily more for the time zone availability than it is anything else.
Yeah. And the labs, a lot of the labs are the same. It was more for the supplements that I found it helpful for supplement
Sure.
availability in the area. But
Yep. All right. Have either of you used products from Touchstone Essentials? If so, thoughts on product quality? They have fulvic mineral zeolite and other compounds. I'll make mine easy. Unfortunately, no. I hadn't even heard of that until this moment.
me either. I'm so sorry. I will look.
Oh, sorry, Angelique. I'm sure they're great.
Mhm.
What percentage of women do you get also identify with ADHD, and do their ADHD like symptoms end up improving from working with you? Interesting question.
At least 50% and yes.
Nice.
To try to answer that one quickly. It's just ADHD symptoms, well, hormones shifting will create symptoms like ADHD and it will irritate and exacerbate ADHD symptoms. So yes, absolutely we see improvements.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I do. I'm a personal believer. Not everyone will resonate with this. It's fine. I do believe that there's probably some people who I don't even want to just say genetically, but There is a slight difference here with what I mean. I'm going to say biologically are more wired towards what we call ADHD. We know
Mm.
people with high extroversion are more stimulation seeking, lower conscientiousness, higher neuroticism. So there's actually personality traits that are well studied and correlated with what we call ADHD, disease or not.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that you brought this up because I have found, and even in myself, when I got exposed to mold, as people get sicker,
Hmm.
they seem to manifest with symptoms that seem similar to ADHD. A lot of us do, at least. Like, I'm more impulsive. I might be shorter tempered. I might just be like seeking novelty, like, something quick on YouTube just because I'm feeling low, right? So, and I can't brain fog, can't focus as much. So, for all intents and purposes, the symptoms are almost identical, but I don't necessarily have the condition. Although some would beg to differ that work with me.
Is that your wife? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
Pretty
kidding.
much any colleague that's here knows this, and Nitty's probably smiling in the background. Damn, if this kid couldn't speak, he would not be here. So you just got to be good at one thing, folks.
One thing.
Um, okay, next one here. I think we'll actually get to all of them. This is great. Angelique is going to be after this. She'll be the last one, just because I do have a hard stop, and Bria's been incredibly
I
kind with her time.
wonderful. Thank
This has been one of the nice. This has been one of the best case
you.
studies. Thank you for your time. Do you think that focusing on longevity would be a good career path for me as an FDN?
Well, I don't know you, but if you love longevity, then yes. Do I think it's a good niche? Absolutely. I think if you're passionate about it, and why not? I would probably niche down into longevity in a specific age box just so that you
Hmm.
can get personally, I think having kind of although I can understand all female hormones, and I think I'm not in the fertility land, right? I've kind of niched down into more like, okay, 35 to 60 is really my area. So if you in longevity, like, are you talking about longevity for people in midlife who, want to get into peptide therapy and biohacking and that kind of thing? Are you talking about longevity for people who are senior and above? So I would try to specialize down into that. But thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you liked the case.
Yeah, and well, we had a bunch of case studies in October, so that's a huge compliment. So, John, for whatever it's worth, too, remember it's always going to be. I'm just talking from a business perspective. It will always be harder to sell longevity, generally speaking, than someone who's in real pain right now, because we have to have that
Mm,
forethought to realize, oh, later I might want to feel better. So, I totally agree with what Bria just said about the age thing. But in terms of, is the FDN system good for it? I I'm being serious. I don't know a system that's better for it. This system can help someone that has 7 different diagnosed conditions like me, and it can help someone that barely feels any symptoms, because the tests are looking for things that would create disease long term or are actively creating it. So we're not by not looking for a diagnosis or criteria that are only going to lead to diagnoses, you find things in people before they even get sick, which is an amazing thing.
yeah, and to put that for John in just one other different way. So
Sure.
ultimately, I help women with longevity. They just come to me because I market to them in perimenopause. I'm marketing to perimenopause and the symptoms that come in perimenopause. But ultimately, what I am helping them with is longevity. That's what we're doing. We're healing so we can live longer and better lives.
All right, OB, yours is an easy one, so we'll take yours after Angelique. OB's is the real last one. I'm sorry, guys. And Bria, before we do this question, just because people are about to tune out,
Yeah.
could you just shout out one more time? Where can they find you? Podcasts that they can listen to? Let's just say all the things again.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much for having me. So come anywhere you get your podcasts. It's called The Period Whisperer. Or come hang out with me on Instagram at Bria_period_whisperer.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm just telling my next meeting just
Mhm.
wrapping up. And if you guys did tune in late, remember, replays are instantly available for our Black Friday Discovery Series. If you're on YouTube, all you have to do is actually stay here. You can just redo this. If you're not watching on YouTube, I highly recommend it. Go to at FDN Training on YouTube under our live tab, not video, not shorts. It's not a video, it was a live. All of our things from Black Friday are available, so you can have fun with that this weekend, and enjoy those. We had some case studies, the keynote from November 10th, and a lot of stuff coming up next week as well. All right, Angelique here. Have you seen issues with using phytoestrogen containing supplements like holy basil on women's cycles? I had a friend with a super regular cycle, started using holy basil, and her period arrived a week late. Ooh.
Yeah, absolutely. Herbs impact our hormones for sure. If people are taking chaste tree when they don't need it, it's going to delay your period or change your period or something. So yeah, that's my quick answer is absolutely it will impact. I'd be really sure of what I'm doing before I take something like that.
I shared the thing so you can see the thank yous coming through live, and then this is an easy one, hopefully. So that's why I said we can take it. What e-commerce store platform do you use for your products and not supplements, if you don't mind sharing?
So like, where do I sell my services?
I
Or
think so. I'm going to go with that because we only have so much time. So yeah.
yeah, so I use Kajabi. I have kind of everything for my whole website and how I sell my, any programs that I make and my services through Kajabi. And then I use Fullscript, I guess, in terms of supplement store, if that's another, but I think you said not supplements.
Yes.
So Kajabi, that's what I use.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Bria, thank you so much. So cool to have this full circle. And I'll talk with you very briefly off air if you don't mind. So once we end it, we can actually still chat. I'd love to do some other things with you in the future. And again, guys, if you could just drop a thank you for Bria. We are off for this Friday. Remember, you can watch those replays all throughout the weekend. If you've missed anything over the last 2 weeks, there's been some amazing content. Please go check it out. Even if you're not considering the FDN course, that's why we have this stuff for you guys. You could still learn something, obviously. And then we'll be getting started again on Monday. We have business sessions, business success sessions. We have different things that we're showing you from the grad and trainee group. And then on Monday, December 1st, 1 o'clock Eastern, please be there. We have our keynote or finalized, or how am I trying to say this, man? I've been streaming for 3 hours. I'm losing it. Finishing keynote, concluding keynote, whatever you want to call it. What I'm trying to do right now, that word. That'll be it, December 1st, 1 o'clock Eastern. We're giving away Amazon cards for the holidays and advanced course to some lucky winners just for being live. And before I screw up any more words, I'm going to call it. So thank you, Bria.